Alright lads, first build on the channel using an O11. This is the O11 Mini V2. For this build, I was sent this case along with the Hydra Shift 2 cooler, the CL fans, and Lee's new budget power supply. The CPU will be the 9600X and the GPU will be the 9070 XT. The case is mini, but only relative to the regular and XL versions of the O11 case. It's actually still pretty big. It's able to do a regular ATX motherboard with a bunch of room to spare, and it comes with all the amazing cable management features and hard drive support that the regular O11 has. Today I'm going to be doing a MicroATX build, so let's get this case prepped for that. Taking the panels off, I noticed just how high quality these panels are. They're thick and heavy and have the best dust filters. I know panels aren't really something that YouTubers talk about all the time, but just know that if you do choose this case, you're getting something that's hefty and built well. Taking a look inside, cable management and all the straps are superb. And the fancy GPU support bracket can be adjusted depending on the length of the video card. Let's remove the bottom fan bracket here and start installing the fans. Oh yeah, here's the dust filter at the bottom. The case fans are Lee's new wireless Unifan CL120s. The fans all easily clip together and the wireless receiver snaps into place at the end. The fans aren't actually wireless. You still need wired power, but the RGB and control are wireless using the wireless receiver that you put onto the fans, which then connects to the USB dongle thing here that you plug into the motherboard. So I have 3 reverse blade intakes at the bottom, a normal blade rear exhaust, and 2 reverse blade intakes on the side. Next, let's get the PSU installed. This is Lee's new RB 750 watt PSU. Although it's a budget PSU, it still comes with all the protections you'd want, like overvolt, undervolt, overcurrent, overpower, over temperature, and of course, short circuit protection. So sleep easy if you choose this power supply. This, however, is not a modular PSU. The cables are hardwired into the unit, so whatever you don't use still has to go into the case. Not a big deal if you're using a larger case like this O11 Mini V2. The only cables that are modular are the SATA and old school Molex connectors. And if you're using a video card that requires multiple 8-pin PCI power cables like I am in this video, this PSU only has one 8-pin lead coming from it. But it does have an adapter to be able to use the 16-pin PCI power cable for the second 8-pin on the video card. And at $70, man, this PSU is actually a steal. And it's heavy. There's a good amount of weight to this unit, which generally means it's good quality. Anyways, let's get the motherboard prepped for install. I went with the Gigabyte B850M Gaming X motherboard. It's one of the cheaper options for a B850M motherboard, but it comes with everything that 99% of people need if they're doing a budget build, kind of like how I'm doing in this one. Let's get the SSD installed quick. This is a 1TB Crucial P310 Gen 4 stick. I used this motherboard in a previous build on the channel, so that's why the film peely is already removed here, but make sure to remove the peely off of your SSD heatsink before you put that on the SSD. The CPU is the Ryzen 9600X. It's good enough for a budget system. I'm going to talk more about this CPU when this build is complete regarding the GPU it's paired with for this build, which is of course the 9070 XT. So more on that later. And the RAM I went with is 32 gigabytes of Patriot Viper Venom DDR5 6000. And I just want to remove these stock brackets for the cooler before I put the board into the case. So because this is an ATX case, I have to adjust the standoffs so that a MicroATX board can be properly mounted, and then I can line the board up and fasten it to the standoffs. Next up, I'm just going to plug in all the cables. First, I'm doing the 8-pin CPU power. Then, I did the front panel USBs and the 24-pin motherboard power. After that, I got the power switch plugged in and the front panel audio as well. Next up is plugging the power into all the fans. Now, I hope I can make this make sense. It makes sense in my head, but that doesn't really mean much. I hope I can articulate this intelligently enough, so here I go. One problem with this motherboard is that there is only 2 system fan header connections. So the 3 bottom fans will get 1 connection, and the other 3 fans will have to be daisy chained and share the remaining connection. This normally isn't a big deal, but with these Lee & Lee fans, the instruction manual says that if you're using 2 or more fans together, that I need to use 2 fan header connections. And they give you 2 fan header connections on these fans if you're using 2 or more. And since I'm using 2 groups of 3 fans, both groups of fans would require 2 motherboard fan connections. So I'm short 2 motherboard headers. However, Lee & Lee says that alternatively, instead of using a second fan header per group of fans, you can use a SATA power adapter for the group of fans. So, not a big deal. But the problem is that there's no SATA power adapter included with the fans, so I'm SOL if I want to properly power these fans. Now thankfully, the all-in-one cooler comes with a SATA power adapter that works for these fans. But if you don't use this cooler with these fans and buy a different cooler, then I guess you're just going to underpower your fans unless you have enough fan connections on your motherboard. So unless I'm missing something here, which I very well might be, but this is unacceptable to me if you buy these fans and they don't come with the ability to properly power them. Anyways, fans are plugged in and I stuffed some cables away and I ended up using the straps on the PSU. They came in very helpful and very convenient. And this is the new HydroShift 2 LCD 360 CL all-in-one liquid cooler. The cooler also has 2 motherboard 4-pin connections. This will be plugged into the CPU fan header and the CPU optional fan header. Let's get the cooler installed. First, I'm going to put the cooler mounting hardware onto the motherboard. Then I'll install the radiator up top. And finally, I'll install the cold plate to the CPU. And then of course, I'm going to realize it's too tight in here to spread the thermal gunk onto the CPU with the radiator already in place. So I need to remove the radiator and install the cold plate first, so bear with me for a minute here. Okay, and then we're gonna spread that thermal juice onto that CPU like it's butter on toast. And then peel the little peely off and mate the cooler to the CPU. And then here, I'm just plugging in those two cooler connections for the pump and the fans into the motherboard. And you can see it's kind of tight getting up here with my fingers and all. Good thing I have little girl fingers. But it is rather tight. And I mean, you can just see here just how little space there is up here. I did end up eventually getting it though, getting those two plugged in. And I did make this harder on myself.